Hey, welcome everybody to our Silver is the New Gold webinar, Innovation Beyond Age Stereotypes. I'm Scott Lee, I'm your host today. I'm sitting here in sunny Hong Kong, and I'm joined by a couple of Silver allies here, April and Thomas. Give everyone a wave, April, give everyone a wave, Thomas. Okay, great. So we've got some really exciting content for you today on about silvers and all about innovation and how we bring those two themes together. Let's get cracking, shall we? What have we got to go through? Well, let's jump straight into it. It's amazing, like worldwide, people are not only living longer, but there's a decline in birth rates as well, which is all adding up to the fact that we're experiencing a big growth in both the size and the proportion of older adults like myself in the population. And to give you an idea of that, by 2050, the statisticians reckon that in APAC, particularly where we are at the moment, there will be 50% of people across the region who'll be 50 or older. So half the population in APAC are going to be silvers. And it's even more stark than that because when you look at China, 62%, almost 2/3 of people in China are going to be over 50 by 2050. And even where I am in Hong Kong, I think the median age is around 47 and a half. So we're almost in a stage in older markets like Hong Kong where half the population are already over 50 and half are under 50. So we're seeing a big shift demographically around the world, but also particularly in the APAC region. So it's a big group, it's getting bigger, but it's also really, financially important as a group of consumers because according to the AARP Global Longevity Economy Outlook, today the 50 plus population accounts for about half of global spending there, the 57.9 trillion astonishing amount that is. But half of that's already accounted for by over 50s. And you can see in this chart as we go into 2025, or as we come into 25 now, the proportion of that spending is increasing, particularly amongst the 50s, the 50 pluses. So some people reckon by 2050, about 60% of the global spending of the economy is going to be accounted for by this over 50s generation. So it's pretty astonishing, pretty big numbers we're talking about. Yeah, when you think about it, traditionally marketing, right, everyone in this kind of 50 plus bracket has kind of been lumped together. I mean, we've even done it in this webinar, right? We've called them all the silvers, right? And there's a bit of an attitude, I suppose, in marketing that, people just get less interesting as they get older, right? And, their habits sort of they become slower, they slow down, they don't change brands, they just sort of become, they just sort of roll into retirement, right? And aren't very interesting and aren't sort of worth marketing to. That's sort of where we are at the moment. But it's a big age group, 50, 50 to 80. I mean, some people are living to 100, right? So, this is a big group to kind of lump together and view in that way. And the survey we did for this webinar actually was interesting because we see a big disconnect. So just zoom into some of the results here from China. You can see that 76% of over 50s in China that we surveyed around 300 of this group in China, 76% of them dislike being generalized into kind of a single generation. So they really don't like this. And on top of that, in our survey, around 2/3, 62% said I just don't recognize myself in the typical descriptions that marketeers or society put out there of people who are over 50. So, pretty astonishing gap here. And we did a bit of cluster analysis, a bit of personification with our data. I haven't got time to show you all the 5 segments, but just to give you an idea of the sort of personas that come out, give you a flavor here. So this is an example of one of the types of over 50s we saw in our study. The energized explorer, Jin, 59. He's a product designer, lives in Shanghai, but is really into learning new skills and technology. And he's not slowing down at all. He's actually learning new things. Now, as we spin around the world, we had a persona and a segment, the ambitious adapter, personified here as Helen, 81, who's a retired librarian. in Manchester, and she's been through a few challenges. As you get older, you do face challenges. People pass away, things happen, you have health effects, but she's still very positive about getting out there, meeting people, and doing new things and challenging herself. And then through to this persona, the vibrant visionary Nicole, 69, wellness coach in Austin. She's really leading a very vibrant lifestyle, doing lots of exercise and launching a podcast and all sorts of things. So when we look at these silvers, you'll see, and we'll talk more about it as we go through, they're really not a single group. I mean, if anything, they're kind of united by the fact that they're all doing very individual things to find personal fulfillment. So it's a really interesting group. And I think, April, we picked up a little bit of insights in our What Matters report, right? Back in Q1.
Yes, that's right. So the whole idea of aging as an opportunity to reinvent yourself is also the theme that we've been seeing from our 2025 What Matters report. Well, in the past, aging was often seen as like slowing down. We saw that it's increasingly seen as an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. So, as highlighted by one of the What Matters 25 Trends Silver Renaissance, aging isn't about slowing down anymore. It's really about living on your own terms. So, in fact, our global study with 12,500 consumers in 50 markets found a whopping 73% of people in APAC actually consider aging as an opportunity to reinvent themselves. And as the quote highlights, it is seen as an opportunity to do things that they have not had the chance to do because of professional and personal life demands. Well, let's just take a look at this picture. Can you guess this person's age? Well, he's actually 29. You probably don't know him. Actually, I don't know him either. But he's Gerald O'Brien, a Scottish professional footballer from the 1960s. Okay, now let's look at another picture. Try to guess the age again. Okay. He's a famous model and photographer in Singapore, and he is actually 57. And rumor has it that he has the body of a 20-year-old as well. Astonishing, right? And actually, this is a real effect. Scientists at Yale measured the biological age of people's bodies and showed people today have bodies which are biologically younger than people of the same age had in the past. Their paper was called Is 60 the New 50? So it seems we are not
Hmm.
just getting older, we are just aging slower and better. So why is that the case? Well, less smoking, better healthcare, dental care, more sunscreen, less sun, fewer physical demanding jobs, and improved diets. Next. So we are not just aging slower, but we are aging better, and we also feel younger. I definitely feel younger. So our research showed that in general, 83% of people aged 50 or older in China feel younger than their actual age. Now, there is a big gap between the age that people have on their birth cert and how they feel inside. So, this gap between our actual age and our perceived age is more than 8 years. And I definitely feel a lot younger. So, I guess this has a lot to do with our lifestyle and activity levels. So, in fact, being older doesn't mean that we are less active, but on the contrary, according to the ABC Fitness Wellness Watch for 2024 report, 80% of boomers actually consider themselves physically active compared to 66% of Gen Z. I guess you can also see this when you look at the gym population nowadays. So for the longest time, right, gym were always seen as playgrounds of the young, places filled with 20 and 30 something chasing six packs. But today, more older adults are stepping into the gym not just for a walk on the treadmill, but to lift weights as well. And in fact, over the past 2 decades, gym membership among the seniors aged 55 and older have surged by 231%. You're definitely not too old to live with. And this is what 76-year-old powerlifter Ling Lei Yong from Singapore believes in. And Scott, I heard you have been going into the gym to lift weights, right?
Yeah, that's my experience. I joined a gym recently here in Hong Kong, and I was amazed. I was expecting it to be lots of, buffed up Gen Z younger folks, but actually it was, half the people were my age, which is great. Although I'm not sure I could lift as much as Ling Li Yong here. He looks like he's pretty well practiced on this stuff. But it's amazing, April. Yeah, I mean, there's not just the physical side of things for this over 50 silver group, but also kind of the mental and lifestyle things. There's a big shift from, a lifestyle where it feels limiting to one which embraces aspirations across many, different ways. And there's a few kind of memes or phrases around kicking around at the moment that sort of reflect this. One is this phrase, seniorpreneurs. So these are people who, are leveraging their life experience in perhaps business and really challenging stereotypes that you basically just end up retiring. They're starting their own businesses. And a great example is down in Singapore with you, April, is 1 Degree C, which is a cold brew, like a drink business, which was started by Richard Coe here at the age of 54. So, these seniorpreneurs really showing the way. And then you have this lovely term, gramfluencers. So I don't know whether people have seen this, but influencers are challenging a lot of the stereotypes and kind of norms through social media. And Japan, of course, in the region, well, in the world, is one of the oldest markets, is it, in terms of profile? And these influencers from Japan, Tsuyoshi and Tommy Sek, kind of became famous rather accidentally. Their daughter posted some pictures of them online, and people loved the way they coordinated their outfits. So, would you believe it? They've got like 700,000 followers now. They post daily, and they even have their own label at a department store, I think. So they're just trying to show that, look, you can have a lot of fun. It doesn't cost a lot of money, even if you're going into retirement. A lot of fun together. So that's lovely. And one other group that shows this sort of ambition beyond limitations theme is the Age Venturas. And again, this is Japan. A lot of great examples of this in Japan, but it's a lovely example. JL Pop. It's Japan's all senior boy band, I guess. They're still boys in a way. And yeah, well, they're 65 to 87. And these guys, it's not their only job. Some of them are still farmers and fishermen. So, but they got noticed by Universal Studios in Japan and were signed up to do a debut single. And they even promote tourism with their music in the Kochi prefecture around Japan. So quite amazing. And we've been seeing this kind of theme of aspiration in the research we're doing, regularly with clients. So, for example, Haleon is a big client of ours in China, but also globally, the leading consumer health company. And we run an ongoing community with them to understand silvers in China. And really interesting because communities are just a great way to get stories and sort of chat to people. And would you believe it, this demographic, they love being on community. So you get a lot of rich stories. But the thing that stood out for us when we were talking to these silvers in China for Haleon was this talk about a second spring. So a lot of these over 50s talking about a second spring where there's a time for greater freedom and more resources to invest in personal growth, hobbies, and relationships. So that sense of personal fulfillment alongside prioritizing, of course, well-being as well. So we're seeing it in some of the work we're doing on our communities, and excuse me, and also in this study that we did recently for this webinar, this was a result we got in China, which 77% of people saying, actually, 77% of over 50s, I should say, saying, I've actually got many goals and ambitions that I want to chase now I'm over 50. So lots of purpose, lots of passion, and lots of possibility in this Silvers group. But April, it's not always matched by the marketeers, is it?
Exactly. But I love it that there are so many silver influencers out there. And like what you said, is not
Mm.
really match what's in the reality. So we do see a huge gap. like what we are seeing in reality versus how brands are focusing on this generation. So, according to an article in Harvard Business Review, only 5 to 10% of marketing budgets are currently going into reaching this audience. Next. And from our research, we found that 64% of over 50s in China feel ignored or undervalued by the brands. So I think it is really a great time for brands, marketeers, and society at large to see them and let go of stereotypes. Because indeed, the majority consumers at this age, from our research, really welcome brands who challenge stereotypes. And we do have a great example from Dove. So its recent Beauty Never Gets Old campaign. With this campaign, Dove aims to redefine aging as aspirational. So, featuring real women over 60, it challenges unrealistic beauty standards, highlighting strength and glamour in aging. So, let's take a look at the campaign.
If I was you, I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me too. I'd wanna be me.
I really love this ad, and beauty indeed never gets old. So, next we have another example. So, this campaign from AIC, the Agency for Integrated Care in Singapore, actually tackles aging stereotypes head on by producing a digital photo repository that celebrates seniors, encouraging Singaporeans to shatter the preconceived notions of aging and redefine how we think, live, and age. So we have another initiative from AIC. This is the Boomer is Okay campaign. So with this campaign, they want to break age stereotypes, showing the world that there is no limit to aging, and it features 5 inspiring seniors. So let's take a look.
That was 1K.
Tadi orang dan just defunction nanti kau organ. Klak, klak.
Oh God, please make sure I complete the walk.
Everybody follow me. 享受流汗。
Wow. Yeah, so there's really no stopping these 5 seniors, right? They even came together to run a route that spells the catchphrase, Boomer is okay. A clap back to the retort, okay, Boomer, often seen to dismiss and mock seniors. Truly inspiring, right, Scott?
I think it's great. I mean, I've always felt on being over 50 that we're largely ignored. So this is music to my ears, that there's a signs of change coming, an opportunity for brands to really counter stereotypes, and not just in communication, but also in innovation. So this is a great opportunity to co-create with this over 50 Silvers generation. And with that, I'm going to bring in Thomas, our innovation guru, to tell us a little bit about how can we actually start to think about collaborating with this generation in the innovation space. Thomas, over to you.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I think Scott and April really made the opportunity crystal clear. And I believe that for successful innovation in this area, we need to go beyond surface level assumptions, right? How do we truly understand and innovate with this generation and not just for them? As an experiment, and you see it here on the screen, we asked ChatGPT to generate a few new ideas for silvers in different categories. You see beauty, snacks, entertainment, smartphone, mobility, finance, healthcare. And I'll give you a moment to just look at them and like, what do you think? What do you feel when you look at these? And what we feel when we look at these, and what is quite striking, is that all of the cliches emerged, right? It's a very one-dimensional view of silvers. It's centered around anti-aging, retirement, joint health. You see large icons, and overall, it's all quite like bland, quite clinical, and gray. So it's no surprise that there's a lot of biases in LLMs if we don't feed it with rich and nuanced data. So how can we map where to play, what to create, how to succeed in the silver market in a different way, in a successful way?
Mm.
And to give you a head start, in this webinar, we're going to share in a little bit 5 innovation platforms for silvers. And you can see a sneak preview already here. We'll show you more later. But I first would like to give you just an overview of how we got to these 5 innovation platforms. And for innovation projects like this, we like to apply our now, wow, how engagement model. Starting in the now, it's all about identifying what we already know, creating a knowledge map. It's about getting the most out of existing data that is both public but can also be proprietary to get answers quickly, right? In hours or days instead of weeks, getting some first answers. And that sets us up for the wow. What are the gaps we need to fill, and how can we get the richest understanding by engaging, in this case, with a group of silvers? And we've seen that in innovation, there's often a problem of the longevity of insights. It's easy for insights to get lost along the way of an innovation journey. And the how is all about making sure that we take those insights further down the journey to drive really concrete marketing outcomes. So you'll see we're using silvers here as an example, but this really translates well to other innovation opportunities as well. So we'll go through these one by one. Here first, to develop these innovation platforms, we started by leveraging a combination of our own What Matters 25 report, which you've also seen in the first part, that included a dedicated section on the silver renaissance. And then we combined that with quite extensive social listening, but also with an analysis of research publications from sources like MIT HLab, and you see a picture there. So an AI-enabled curation that resulted in that first knowledge map, which I love to think of as a sort of scaffolding of what innovation platforms then could look like. And then, of course, we want to engage with silvers, immerse in their world, and really collaborate with them, which is where qual at scale comes in and really thrives. So for us, our definition of qual at scale is, first of all, reach. And this may be also top of mind for you when you think about scale, right? Let's do it with more people. But it also means expanding beyond traditional age brackets, right? And I think this is
Mm.
one takeaway we can all take with us, like not capping our work at like 65 anymore. So here we engage, for example, from 50 to 94
Wow.
year olds. That was the oldest person, right? And reach is also about being mindful about the markets. In total, we engaged 15 markets, but we didn't do everything in every market. So it's about really being purposeful there. Richness, all about getting a very intimate, a granular understanding of what people think, feel, do, using video, text, image, audio capture, techniques like those AI moderated interviews are really great, and even
Mm.
some in-person interviews in markets like Shanghai with silvers.
Mm.
And then the last one here, depth, analyzing all of this data through 3 key lenses. What's the point of view from an individual perspective, but also how are silvers influenced by their social context and by their cultural context. Online communities are really our hero methods, I think, an umbrella covering all of these quality scale techniques, giving us that richness, reach, and depth. And one other kind of like tip I'd like to share is when we're engaging with a target audience, we're always so quick and eager to get straight into like category insights and talk about what we really want to know. But because there's so many like biases, stereotypes for this generation and in general, we'd love to also just broaden up a little bit and just think of things like what does a day in a life look like? How do they see themselves in like 5 to 10 years to get an understanding and really start to empathize with them? And this type of approach of engaging with silvers also works for them. And Scott already mentioned it. They love this, right? They love to collaborate with us in this way. We actually see that 3 out of 4 silvers want to collaborate with brands on innovation. And we love to also take a closer look at the type of opportunities they can collaborate on with you. And those are those innovation platforms I already hinted at. So I will give a high-level overview of the 5 platforms we uncovered. And a key takeaway here is that they're not just theoretical frameworks, they're actually opportunity spaces backed by real consumer data. So each of these platforms had its own statistics background. It has specific signals of what we're already seeing in market on what's resonating with silvers. And they're also designed as a starting point to work across industries. And we're working already with a few clients actually to see how we can apply them to their reality. First platform, and also the one we'll go a little bit more in depth in, is Boundless Motion. In essence, here, it's a platform about celebrating how people's bodies, their tastes, their movements are shifting throughout life. And instead of fighting against these changing bodies, it's about designing products that work with those changes. So design with them instead of against them. If we're moving on to our second platform, Play Reframed, this is about bringing energizing playfulness back into adult life. Think about creative activities, think about friendly competitions, dancing, for example. So all of these kind of activities have become as important to people's well-being as their health goals. And that really flips the stereotype that older adults are all about just relaxation, slowing down, about embracing their routines. Next up is social expansion. And this is about getting meaningful connection and specifically within major life transitions. This can be like relocating to a new city, it can be retiring, but it can also be becoming a caregiver. And we're seeing that specifically for silvers. There's a big group of silvers who have like an interesting dual caregiver role where they're both caring for their kids, but they're also caring for their parents. And we're seeing that 8 out of 10 silvers actually say that helping others within that social element gives them a super strong sense of purpose, which is an essential driver of happiness. Expertise exchange is here up already. This is one of my favorite examples of an innovation platform because it again flips this narrative about aging, and instead of treating all of the life experiences people have built up in their lives as something passive, this platform is all about creating spaces where this like wisdom and experience becomes fuel for reinvention. And we are already seeing, the past few years, a lot of conversation around lifelong learning. But here we're seeing that expertise goes both ways. So silvers both have a lot to teach, but also still a lot to learn, and they're enjoying platforms where they can just help solve each other's problems. So like a two-way stream in terms of mentoring people. And then there's digital fluency, a platform that recognizes that silvers often have decades of tech experience, sometimes dating back to the earliest PCs. So the challenge isn't always digital literacy. Often the challenges that do pop up are about genuine usability issues. And a fun example here that really puts a spotlight on this, Lenovo, the computer company, they have a Silver Snipers project, and that is the world's first senior esports competition competing in Counter-Strike. Just really shattering the stereotype that gaming is just for young spirits and that any competitiveness would diminish with age. To put them all together, and I know there's a lot here. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Feel free to take a screen grab. It's okay. These are the 5 platforms high level next to each other. And we have the personas that Scott introduced on there as well with some of the stats from the research. One thing I do want to call out is that we've seen some like interesting market differences in which platforms rise to the top for a specific market. And I'll focus on China here in the region. And we see that out of these five, expertise exchange really gravitates mostly for our Chinese silvers, also compared to the other markets. And I think that's very much in line with the deep respect in Chinese culture for experience and knowledge that can kind of become a social currency. And that's kind of in contrast with like social expansion in the US, where we do see that people tend to move around a lot throughout the US for their careers, for family, for retirement. And in the UK, where the number one platform is a more pragmatic one, unlike digital fluency and providing something more functional. But I promised you a more in-depth overview of one of them, and we'll focus on boundless motion here. And this is really about getting an opportunity to develop products and services that evolve with silvers and not against them. And you see that each of these innovation platforms have different dimensions, different angles. And we're seeing that the most kind of like a relevant angle that really pops here is about empowerment, where we see that 3 out of 4, 75% of silvers want products that help them do what they can and not just fix what they can't. And you see that in that first quote there, even that it's about, for example, taking a more proactive approach to healthcare, here valuing healthy lifestyles over health checks. We see, and even though it's lower, half of silvers, I still think that 51% is quite high, where people say or state that they feel their sense of taste, touch, smell, has kind of evolved, has changed as they have gotten older. And here we see an example of someone who says that every time they sip a specific type of soda, it seems sweeter and flatter than they remember. It used to have like a bite to it, and that's all gone. So we see that kind of evolve. Great innovation platforms should always improve, right? Maybe not mainstream proof, but definitely at the fringes. So we did some of those like innovation scans. And when we're doing this, we also like to look at things like prototypes that brands have launched or work of like graduate students in design to get inspiration of what's going on. And for boundless motion, we see a lot of sensory examples here from on the top left, this was launched at CES this year, an electric salt spoon that lets you customize the saltiness of your food without actually adding salt. And it goes all the way to the cryo ice popsicle. That's a very like sensorial way to address inflammation. On the bottom left, we love the Bex example, more on that later, but the core here is that more advanced palates can handle more bitterness. So as you're aging, your palate can actually handle more bitterness. So Bex developed a 70 plus lager with that high bitterness, and it's even in a silver can, so very much on brand for today's session. The hair care brand on the bottom right is called Better Not Younger, celebrating hair as it matures. And there is, of course, also physical mobility. We want to make sure, as we're being like more nuanced of the real reality of silvers, that we don't overcorrect. So there is still kind of like a multi-dimensional space, and there can still be some struggles. So you see physical mobility examples from getting around on a step that evolves into other mobility modes as you need them, to again, one of my favorites on the top right, a super flex suit that looks pretty neat and is also assisting your muscles when you need them to again still allow you to do everything you want to do. To activate the platform, we capture this in like the 3 dimensions in consumer insight. So they go from sensory shift and movement redefined to one that's really centered around the frustration that silvers have when their environment is trying to limit them. So that's the third one there. Again, I'm not going too in depth. We can follow up with the deck. One thing to focus on, again, when you're doing this type of innovation work, is when there is any like scientific proof to come in, we do also love to bring that in. And here you see a confirmation of the Beck's bitter lager idea, where we do see that senses tend to change as people get older. So this gives you an overview of, how we think about innovation for silvers and how we can bring those platforms to life. To take that even further, we introduced some quick experiments. And here we wanted to generate some sacrificial concepts that are easy to explore with the target group. So it's not about the real value of each of these ideas. It's just about ways to help us further get understanding in the platforms and in the needs of silvers. Throughout the process, we heavily used our AI canvases, which capture subject matter expertise, in this case in innovation, from how to reframe consumer insights all the way to driving more divergent thinking with this unexpected ideation canvas you see here on slide. So let me give you a few quick examples of some of the ideas for boundless motion that we came up as a sacrificial concept. Here, for example, this is a twist layer scent that lets users adjust fragrance intensity and the different layers of a flavor of a scent as sensory preferences evolve. So unlike like a traditional anti-aging product, this is really about celebrating changing senses as an opportunity rather than a problem we would need to fix. Another one, still in the sensorial space, I think it's a super rich space. Drop Boost flavor allows people to add complexity to their drinks to cater to their more complicated palates. Again, building on that notion that aging taste buds can crave a lot more intensity in food and not less. A few more to flash up on the screen. You have examples in finance. Like, why wouldn't we also take people's life experience into account and not just, for example, their credit score? Examples in entertainment that are in line with like the movements we've seen and people doing fitness and doing weightlifting. How do we build that in an interactive way in some entertainment platforms, all the way to UX, where here there's like a smart system that based on how people are zooming, maybe squinting, that is adapting the UX to people's needs. So to recap, we showed you how we developed innovation platforms for silvers. So that's the first bucket here, opportunity spaces. We give you a little bit of a flavor of how we turn those into new ideas with the sacrificial concepts. But another message here for silvers, to really make innovation a success, we need to increase that longevity of insights and nail everything until the go-to market, right? So we can't exclude that. Specifically for silvers, it's important in how you launch a product that you steer clear of any of those like stereotypes in communication, because we've seen in the first part that people already don't always recognize themselves in how silvers are portrayed. So let's take a look at how Beck's, remember the silver can, how they launched their 70 plus lager.
Well, thank you, Thomas. That's great. There's just so many rich ideas and territories and insights there. So much for brands to start playing with and start boosting more innovation for the silver demographic. It leaves me to do a little bit of a summary. So some of the things we touched upon today. Silver is the new gold. That was the name of the webinar. It's a big group, and they're going to account for more and more of global spending. 60% by 2050, and yet it seems like marketeers have not yet caught up with this opportunity. Secondly, we said, well, it's not about age, it's people don't feel their age, in fact. They feel, as we saw, over 10 years younger than that. So we need to change the way we view it and design for how they feel, and not just kind of those stereotypes of what we think they should feel because of their chronological age. And then, yeah, thank you, Thomas. Just some really rich insights and areas that people can explore to differentiate, to innovate as well. And we talked a lot about getting into the depth of those, the social, the individual, the social, the cultural context. And yeah, 5 free platforms for people to get cracking on. So what, fantastic. So thanks, everyone. And I hope you found it interesting. Hope it's inspired you to get in touch with a silver near you, and maybe market to them, innovate to them. It's a big thank you from the team here. Thank you, April. Thank you, Thomas. And goodbye, everyone. Thank you.